So I personally am assuming that Trump is going to be the next president. It will likely be a protracted and painful transition. In previous videos, I was still keeping my hopes up that something might change with the Democratic Party so that a new Democratic candidate would be president, but that train has left the station. The likelihood of Donald Trump being the next president and acknowledging where the Democratic Party is at has clarified the next few years in my mind. I would have to revisit this if Kamala Harris wins, but the gist of what I'm about to say stays the same because my thinking was between these two candidates and someone else who would be able to start to build a new spiritual foundation. Since the outcome is going to be between these two candidates, it goes in the same direction. I do have my opinions about Trump versus Harris in and of itself, but that's beside the point right now. The major piece that's fallen into place for me is the recognition that the collective will have to feel its way to the new foundation, and that change happens only as a result of the visceral, felt needs of society. I said before that a mass awakening is already underway, and for me the timeline is becoming clearer. The modern Western world has been undergoing a necessary but painful experiment on the expansion of individual selfhood, exploring everything to do with individual freedom, power, entitlement, and needs being met in isolation and without consideration of others or the greater context or the objective reality of the situation. This was a necessary step in our evolution, but it comes with significant imbalances and has reached its limits. We're now deepening an ongoing period of dissolution and feeling the side effects of the underlying disconnection from each other. Examples for this are the various forms of pain and trauma that's purposefully or unconsciously kept hidden from the mainstream of society, or the polarization when it comes to political discourse. So this period of dissolution will be addressing those imbalances and bringing society closer to becoming a more heart-centered and healthy one. All of this is happening as the rest of the world is uniting amongst each other with an amount of strength and power that goes against the current worldview and belief systems of Western countries. Having to deal with the reality of that is likely going to be a part of the dissolution and transformation that's going to happen. And these shifts also correlate with important astrological events that I mentioned in a previous video when I was talking about the paradigm shift that I'm anticipating. Those transits all happen in the next 4 years during the next president's term. There's a Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which I've described as the beginning of a spiritual reset of the modern self. There's the Uranus return of the USA. Uranus returns have typically been associated with major conflicts and turning points of the US, including the last one, which was World War II. Then there's the Neptune-Pluto sextile story that is between 2026 and 2032. It has everything to do with dissolution and confronting of delusions, but it's also going to be acutely triggered by that same Uranus that's having its US return. And the lunar nodes, which are now in Aries and Libra, are changing signs, moving into Pisces and Virgo starting in January of 2025. This adds an emphasis on healing, consideration of the greater good, and humble compassion, which will be cultivated in the collective during that period. And that's in addition to Saturn currently already being in Pisces and staying there until February of 2026. So on some level, we're flying headfirst into confronting the most consequential imbalances of humanity, like the potential of nuclear war or World War III, but we're also rocket launching into the future in a positive sense. Some of the changes that I look forward to is that we will be anchoring individual freedom and self-expression onto a foundation of healing and connectedness with the greater whole, which is going to take a lot of work and the integration of the masculine and feminine principles that I will be talking about down the road extensively. So it will be a very long process, probably beyond my lifetime, but we're talking about ending hundreds to thousands of years of suffering, so it'll probably be worth it. All this to say, the awakening has many, many components to it. So my focus is going to be on the scientific understanding of how things work from a consciousness-based perspective, which is going to require subjectivity being integrated into the scientific discourse. Plus, what it means to have power and freedom as an individual intertwined with the state of the collective, and how health, disease, and the process of healing would be defined from that point of view. So I'll be back with more content along those lines after digesting some of the changes that are occurring. So see you soon.